I thought about it. I'm like, oh, maybe I could like settle for a Fiero or something like that, but like
Hey, the
I think
Fiero is cool. I like Fieros.
I was trying to like look for one and stuff. I was like, but man, like there's a handful of Fieros that are like, so like somebody put like a freaking Cadillac North Star engine
Oh my
into the back
gosh.
of this thing. I was like, oh my god. It's like, yeah, it's only $5,000. I was like, oh, like I was like,
It's only
I
five.
got, yeah, I'm like,
This is the CHRILLCAST, conversations with the CHRILLCAST episode, whatever number this is. I'm Chris, and I have a guest down below me. What's your name?
oh, sorry, I didn't realize that it was on. So, yeah, I'm Super Nicktendo. I'm Nick. You can call me Nick. We have a YouTube channel here, and I've been doing this for 5 years now. So I've been covering mostly retro video game price trends lately. So that's been a lot of fun for me and stuff. So, and every so often, like I'll do essay type videos and stuff about the Atari VCS or the Playdate or the Mister or just anything that I find interesting. So it's been a fun time as a hobby here.
And it's in my opinion, your channel is like the perfect mix of economics and gaming because like you both have the enthusiasm of it. You have the actual trending of prices and like follow the financial side of gaming, which is something a lot of people don't do. And then you also have pretty in-depth reviews on these hardwares, like these very obscure things. So we're going to get into that later on. But obviously, the first question we need to get into is how did you start on YouTube? What made you decide to make a channel?
Well, when I first started, I basically I realized that I had been collecting so many games, but I hadn't really been playing them. And so it was kind of a thing. Like I initially started the channel as like a game collecting channel where like my first videos, I was showing off like, my collection. And I did this thing is called the user voted review where, I would review a game and then I would give people like a chance to like vote on the next game that I would do, and like I would just go ahead and review each game. But eventually, like I started because I used to work at a video game store, and one of the things that was interesting to me was like noticing like the trends of like people buying the games and coming in and seeing what was popular. And I think like one of the first ones that I did was like about the Super Nintendo Classic and like how it was affecting retro video game prices or just overall in general. Cause I was really interested. It looks like that first one here. Yeah. The Super Nintendo Classic is affecting physical prices. And I kind of like went on there. I was like, okay, like now that the Super Nintendo Classic is out, like how does that affect, prices and stuff? And it kind of like just blew up from there. I guess. Well, the first one was the video game bubble because that's everybody says like that's 4 years ago. People still talk about the retro video game bubble, and so it's like,
oh, right here.
I don't really think that that's a thing. And people still like, no, you don't understand. Like eventually prices will, like they'll bottom out soon. I was like, okay, but yeah, like so that's what really got me into it. And then like eventually like my big pop off video for the Retronomics was when I because Metal Jesus Rocks was getting like hosed every time like somebody on the retro video game collecting subreddit, they'd be like, oh, it's that Metal Jesus's fault. He's got those hidden gems and everything, and he rises the prices. And so like I went back and I forecasted. I went back and I looked at the price trends of 200 games that he did, and then I like viewed the price trends like of when he made the video versus like a little bit a month before, a month during, and then a month after to see like what the prices did. And like they eventually like the prices would go up, but then they would drop back down a little bit. And this was really controversial too, because like the way that I titled it, I was like, how Metal Jesus Rocks affects retro video game prices. And like somebody like shared it into Metal Jesus's Facebook group, and Metal Jesus Rocks, he's got like a pretty dedicated following. So like I got like just like ripped apart, and like on top of that, like I'm using this green screen. I didn't really know how to use it too much. Like I think I only had like 200 subscribers at the time, so I didn't really know too much like about like what I was doing. So I got ripped apart on that and like all this other stuff and like it. But eventually, like yeah, Metal Jesus Rocks like commented on it. He's like, yeah, thanks for giving me a fair shake and stuff. And I was like, okay, good. Like that's all that matters. But like every so often, like we get just random things because like his video and the thumbnail too, like the thumbnail makes it look like it's his video, and like I did that on purpose. And like um every time that he would do a hidden gems video, it would recommend my video, and so a lot of people
Really?
would comment on it and they'd be like, oh, I thought this was a Metal Jesus Rocks video, but it's just you. And like but yeah, like I went through it because like it was kind of interesting too, because he just posted a video about hidden gems, and because that's the comment that he always got, like was people would comment on there and be like, oh great, like the price of this game is gonna jump super high, thanks a lot. And he would be like, I don't know what to tell you, like these games are just, I just put the list and stuff, and like people would accuse him of doing it on purpose. And it's like I you can't really, like, I know he can predict, like obviously it happens, but to say that he like gets a kickback or something like that is really just unsubstantiated and really unfair for him.
Well, I look at it this way: which came first? Were they hidden gems that are expensive that Metal Jesus watched, or were they things that Metal Jesus recommended that are hidden gems that became expensive? Which one's first? Are they expensive first, or did Metal Jesus recommend them first? You know what I mean?
Well,
It's like
yeah,
they're
and
probably already expensive if they're hidden gems.
well, that's kind of thing too. Is like it's not that necessarily, like some of them, like you can kind of see in like these sold listings that they weren't necessarily too expensive. But that's the thing too about his videos, is that he never says that they're cheap,
Right.
or he never says like what the price of the game is. Like it's
If he
kind of
did
just like,
that, then you might be able to accuse him of doing what they're saying he's doing, but he's not doing that.
yeah. So like I mean, most of the time though, like because this is back in, like I think I went as far back as like 2016 or 2015. I went back pretty far. So like even back then, like game prices were, nothing what they are today. So but I mean it happens, like these influencers, they affect the prices and stuff, and it eventually calms down. Like there was some other YouTuber, I forgot what his name was, but he uh it was an Xbox game. It was only like $10 or something like that, or $20. And then after he did the video on it, it was like $135. Yeah, like it but yeah, like I mean that's kind of the thing about it. Like in my opinion, like if you didn't know about these games and you're just now buying them because you see it in a video and you're upset about the price, you're kind of like part of the problem when it comes to contributing to the prices and stuff. Because that's kind of the thing too, is like Metal Jesus Rocks fans, at least back then, they would like go out literally and buy them and then post them in the Facebook group and be like, look at how many like hidden gems that I bought and stuff like that. Like it became like a thing. So it's not like, I don't know, it's really hard for me to like blame YouTubers when the audience can just choose not to buy these games. They're not necessities.
Yeah, when you say the word hidden gem, it doesn't mean, hey, go buy this immediately. It's like, hey, here's like 10 games you might like. And if you do, then go check it out. That's a completely different scenario than go buy these games now, used cars down the road.
Yeah, and it's not, he never said like, hey, these are undervalued, so you better buy them now before they get out of control. Like
Right.
it's always a matter of like, he's always had these games, like he's had them forever, like he constantly collects. So he has tons of them. And then like some guy like commented on the video, and he was actually like a video game store who watches Metal Jesus Rocks for those hidden gems. And what he would do was he would put the uh his backstock copies onto his eBay store when the hidden gems thing came up. So like he obviously he takes advantage of it because, when I worked at a game store, like nobody's coming in for like some random obscure game, like they're
Right,
coming
but
in for
on
Super
eBay
Smash
they might.
Brothers. So like it's one of those things. It's like it's really hard for me, like when people are buying off of eBay and stuff, it's just like they think that like they're required to buy it, I guess. Like, and so that's why they complain about it. It's, like it's almost like somebody complaining about like health insurance or something like that. It's like you need health insurance, you need like a high if you go to a doctor, you're going to have to pay a lot of money, like, and you have to go to a doctor or else you'll die. But if you're complaining about like a video game that's too high in price, it's not like,
Yeah, you don't have to go buy that.
yeah.
Nobody,
So
nobody's got a gun to your head. Go buy this game.
yeah, so it's a problem in the game collecting space and stuff. A lot of people, like, they don't like to blame themselves, but these are the same people who post on the game collecting thing, be like, oh, I spent $350 on Haunting Ground or something like that, and it's like I- that's the going rate of the game, like, so
I can honestly say I only felt like I overspent as a collector myself. I've only ever felt like I've overspent on something like twice. I bought the GameCube component cables, which I don't necessarily regret because I still use them. And I bought Revelations Persona on the PS1.
I
Both
think
of which are the only two things other than brand new. Like I just got a Steam Deck in the mail today. Those are the only two things I've ever spent like retro collecting more than $200 on. That's it. The entire time I've been buying.
yeah, I bought Bubble Bobble Part 2 and DuckTales 2, both in the same, like, about like a week or two um apart from each other. And it's because, like, I got my tax return and I told, my wife at the time, I was like, listen, like, I'm kind of like done trying to track these down for a cheap price.
Yeah, I get
I'm
that.
just gonna bite the bullet and just buy them now. So I don't feel like I overpaid for those, because like those were ones that I'd been looking for 10 years at that point. So I was like, it's finally time to just like buy them. So I don't feel like I've overspent on anything except for, yeah, I don't, maybe I think I kind of regret buying the analog devices,
Yeah,
the Super NT and the Mega SG.
really?
Those are the only ones that I kind of regret that I'll probably be selling in the future.
Yeah, I ended up not going the Super NT route. I wound up getting the RetroTink 2X and the HD Retrovision cables, which ended up being about the same price as the dang analog device would have been. But I do have like a legit Super Nintendo at the end of the day. So like, I don't know. The only time I've ever bought like a not real, but non-branded OEM console was I got the Retro USB AVS. I do have that, and I
Okay.
spent a little too much money on that, but not like a lot too much. I got a whole bunch of accessories with it, so I didn't. It added up to be worth what I paid.
Yeah, I bought the NT Mini Noir and I love that thing. Like, it was well worth the price. I paid retail for it. And but when I got the other ones, the SG and the thing, I was like, I realized that I don't play on an HD TV on retro consoles. Like, I play it on my PVM or I play it on my thing, and it's like you can't really tell the difference with the HD Retrovision cables. Like, if you got the
No,
HD
no, you
Retrovision
can't.
cables, they work, perfectly. But other than that, I don't have any like real regrets. Well, mainly because, like, when I'm buying stuff, like, I don't just like impulse buy it. Like, I kind of just like, I research a little bit and make sure that the price is, what I'm going to look for and stuff. And then, like, I'll go and buy it, because if I have the money and stuff, I never put stuff on like the credit card or anything like that. So, I don't really want to go into debt for collecting games and stuff.
No,
And
no. I always budget ahead of time if I'm going to buy something.
yeah, that's important.
That's actually great advice for anybody who's collecting. Honestly, is like never put yourself in debt over gaming. That's not worth it. Is that fun at that point? Like if you're in debt to game, are you having fun?
Yeah. And I think that's, you see like a lot of like these game hunting channels and stuff. And it's like, they're really excited to add stuff to the collection and stuff. And I know that there are probably some people out there who are just like, they're shopaholics pretty much. It doesn't matter if it's video games or anything like that. It's the addiction to actually like buying stuff. So, and like I kind of have that a little bit, like video games for the most part I've stopped really collecting because like when you go to video game stores near me and stuff, like I've got pretty much everything, which is
Yep.
like, first world problem. But now it's like I still kind of like to collect, so I collect laser discs and stuff. So like when I find them at half price books for like $2 a piece or something like that, and plus I have like a laser disc player and I hook it up to the retro TV and stuff. So it's kind of fun that way. But yeah, like I would never like put like a ton of stuff like on a credit card, unless like I had the intention of paying it back at the end of the month.
So maybe that's a good thing to roll into now because you've got a decent chunk of hardware over the past few years. You've got, I'm assuming you have a Vita, but maybe you don't, but you did for sure get the Playdate, the AVS, several other consoles that I've seen in your list here.
Yeah.
What makes you decide to get those, and do you keep them all?
So for the most part, like nowadays, I don't get consoles specifically to review. That's one thing that I've learned in my YouTube thing. I
Oh
used
yeah,
to
don't do
buy
that.
hardware and stuff like specifically because I was like, I'm gonna do a video on it. So I have a ton of stuff that's in my closet that just I haven't like touched yet because like my channel specifically is like evolved away from even reviewing that stuff. But um for the most part though, like the hardware that I collect for and I buy, I don't necessarily like have a video in mind for when I get it. The Atari VCS, when I pre-bought that in 2018, that's when I did, when I was spending money to, review stuff on the channel. And I lucked out because like that video got like over 100,000 views and like really kickstarted my channel, and like the revenue that I made from that video paid for the Atari VCS. So like I essentially like made my money back on that, so it was a good payoff. It was a really big gamble, but eventually it did pay off. But for the most part, I have every game, like every console that I talk about, I have. The Vita is the only console that I've talked about that I don't have any games for. That's I bought it at a pawn shop for like $80 or something like that at the time, and I was like, oh, like I'll go to GameStop and I'll get the Vita, and like Vita had already been just like the ship had sailed on that point. So I don't I kind of want to keep it around because like I hacked it, but like at the same time though, it's not a console that I'm actually like
Interesting.
interested in. So it's like that's kind of the thing too. Is like I could sell some of this stuff and like make back my money, but I'm like I don't know if I really want to sell it. So it's kind of like that weird thing. But I mean, recently I bought an Apple IIe. Um, So I definitely will probably make a video on that, but that's something that I've been like looking for a very long time, and I finally found one that was in pretty good shape and had all of the stuff that was necessary for it. For like I think I only paid like $200 for it.
That's not bad. No. This is kind of a roundabout thing though. So you basically said originally you were buying things like specifically to review for your channel, and now it's more of things you're interested in, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so, at what point do you think the switch was flipped for you that you realize like, oh, I probably shouldn't be buying things just for the channel, and it's probably not the best way to go about things?
I think it was when I started like actually making money on the channel. Like if anybody's like out there, like for me specifically, I don't really make that much money on YouTube. I think I make it averages out to like $50 a month or something like that. And the way that AdSense works is that they don't pay out unless you get like $100.
Yep.
So it'll be like 2 to 3 months in between payments. So it's like $150, like it's not that bad. Like, you're like, oh, like I spend like an extra on dinner or something like that. But, or if there's like some memory cards or something like that that I need for the channel, I'll do that. But for the most part, I think like what really clicked for me, it was like, I'm doing this. I'm I'm like buying stuff for a channel that might not get a lot of like views and stuff. So it's like it's not it you're definitely like banking on like it to be like a big viral hit, but at the same time, like the Playdate, like by the time I got my Playdate, everybody had done a review on it. So it's like the SEO on it is crowded and stuff. Like with the Atari VCS, I think I was the second person to make a video on it. So, and like at that time too, like it garnered the attention of like Modern Vintage Gamer and Metal Jesus Rocks and stuff, because like they're kind of like RGT85 like follows me on Twitter. So like when he like sees it and stuff, like his circle kind of saw it too. So like Modern Vintage Gamer like commented on the Twitter post, and like that kind of like got everybody like to click on the actual video. So, but after that, like I think that was one of the things that really, really clicked for me. It was like, maybe I shouldn't be spending that much on things. And also like at the same time, like we finally bought a condo. So like we have like a permanent spot. So now it's like, I definitely have a finite space now. I'm not really banking on, having a bigger space later. So it's like, when I buy something, I'm like, it has to actually fit in my room. It can't, the closet is full. Like it's jam packed right now. I actually have
I
to
get
like
that.
get rid of some stuff, but like I I no longer can just like stick stuff in the basement or anything like that, because we don't have one. So it's um that's one of the other reasons too, is like you finally like it finally snaps about like what you're actually like buying this stuff for too. Like, am I buying it to just play it, or am I buying it to just keep on the shelf? And eventually you start like looking at like how much this stuff costs, and like how much you actually use it and stuff. And you're like, well, I could probably spend that on a better camera or something like that. So that's what I've been
Oh
doing.
yeah, I 100% understand what you're saying with that. Like, I've talked to many people that have bought a next gen console, and they're like, I bought this for next gen games, and yet here we are, and everything's still on the PS4 and the Xbox One. They're like, was it really a good investment right away? I don't know.
Yeah, my Series X kind of just like sits there, and I got that day one. And PlayStation 5 I get a use out of, but yeah, for the most part, it's kind of just like, did I really need to buy that? And I'm like, no, not really. So
I
that's why I
did.
passed on the Steam Deck. So
That is something I did get though. I recognize that the bulk of my gaming is portable. So for me, from a financial and time standpoint, it made sense. So like, I guess that's something that you have to kind of weigh as a collector. Is this something that you're going to actually do something with, more than just look at it the second it comes in, get hyped about it, and put it on a shelf and forget about it?
yeah, and like that's kind of the thing too. Is like I know like with the play date and everything, like I got that specifically because like I thought it was interesting, and I really enjoyed the concept, but I honestly haven't touched it in a couple of weeks and stuff. So it's kind of like I think it's dead in my drawer. But like it's one of those things. Like I've also been busy, and like there's other things that I've been like working on and stuff. So like I'm not in I don't play games to the point where I'm like, this is all like I live and breathe video games and stuff now.
Right.
Like, like you said, mentioned before and stuff. I have like a family that, also demands my attention. It's not demands, but like, I like to spend time with my family. I like to spend time with my friends on the weekends and stuff. Like, and it's been a rough 2 years with COVID and everything. So it's like, kind of like making up for lost time. So it's like, on weekends and stuff, we go to state parks and we go hiking, and, we have friends over, and like we go to bars and stuff. So it's like, video games can wait now. So
Yeah, I totally get that. When you have access to all these games and they're there at all times, life is short. Spend time with your friends and family, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing is like I'll sit down and stuff. I got a nice chair and stuff that I, like to play games on. I bought a an LG OLED so I can actually play like, games and sit down and stuff, because that was the other big problem was that like I would sit at my computer for like days on end, because it's like I work from home
Hmm.
now. So it's like I sat, in this chair for 8 hours, and then like I'm gonna spend another 4 to 5 hours like sitting in the same chair and stuff. Like that's no way to like really spend your time and stuff. So I that's one of the other reasons why I just kind of like took a break from playing video games.
Yeah, I that's actually why I do portables, because if I sit down at a desk, it's like I feel like I'm working. Or if I sit down to game at the TV, somebody else is probably using it. So like for me, the show that somebody else is watching isn't good. Okay, break out my portable and sit there, and I can still have company around me, you know. But if everybody's talking or conversing or playing games together, I'm not going to break out a portable and be rude to my family and friends. So
Yeah. That's the thing too. It's like we'll play Jackbox or something like that.
Jackbox is so much fun.
But for the most part, like we'll chill out and stuff. Like we'll play Towerfall, and there's this other golf game that's a lot of fun. But for the most part, like now, I'll be 40 next year, so it's like your priorities start to shift a little bit. And that doesn't mean that I'll like sell all my video games, but like still, I'm kind of just like, maybe I'm good like with what I have. So
Yeah, you get more selective. I feel like the older you get on what you're willing to buy, unless you're like really deep into the collecting. Like some people will be like, okay, you know what? I've recognized that I am a collector, not a gamer, and this is starting to damage my financials. Whereas other people, like, I'm more of a gamer than a collector, and they don't really care about the collecting aspect. They just want the games they want.
yeah, and that's kind of the thing too. Is like now that I've slowed down, it's kind of like put in perspective of like what kind of games that I want to buy. And so like I'm going for an Atari Lynx full set. So I'm like, because I've as much as like people like they accuse me, they're like, oh, you're Atari VCS handboy. I actually like have been enjoying Atari for the most part. Like now that I've like gone back and stuff and like looked at what's there and stuff. I got a Jaguar a couple of months ago for $100 and stuff. So I've been like building up that collection and plan on doing a video on that. And it's actually like a lot of fun. Same thing with the Atari Lynx. Like the Atari Lynx is a lot of fun for me. So it's it's interesting to like look back on those consoles and like go for a
A full set to see what was all there.
yeah, I mean like I don't need a full set though, because it's like I have the flash drive for it,
Okay.
but it's one of those things where there's only like 70 games for the entire
Right.
set. And so I was like, well, you know what? Why not? And they're not too expensive. It's just that they're hard to find. Like
Mm,
they don't pop up too often and stuff. So I've gotten the most rarest game out of the way. But other than that, I haven't really like focused on it, because like some of them like it pops up and it's like $100 for just a loose copy of Lemmings, and I'm like, uh, you know, one. And also it's like they're all in the Netherlands, and like I ordered one through the Netherlands, and the shipping company like went through China, so it sat in China for like 2 or 3 weeks because they disinfect everything. So it's like it had to like quarantine for 2 weeks or something like that before. Like I thought it was lost, because I was like, why is it, you're in the Netherlands, why is it going through China? Like I don't quite understand. And the guy didn't
I
really understand it
can
either.
probably tell you why. I've got some ideas on it. I've done some research. I'm pretty positive that some of the areas, even near the Netherlands and stuff, use China because they already have all the shipping ready to go.
Hmm.
So they just drop it in a container with all the Chinese goods and stuff that are being shipped over, because it's cheaper for the shipping service to just use one country's shipping service.
Yeah, like that probably makes sense. But yeah, like I was just kind of confused. I was like, oh, so then I had to wait
It is
forever
weird.
for it, and I'm like, maybe I'll just buy through for a US based seller in the future and stuff. But yeah, like the game pops up, it's not very difficult, it's not very hard to find, and so it's like people know that, so they just throw up a price, and they sit on it for a while. So I'm like, I don't really want to spend $100 on Lemmings.
So now we kind of gotten out of the collector standpoint, like what makes you collect games, how you collect, how you've changed how you collect. So how did you get started on your Retronomics? How did you get that in your head to do that? What was the inspiration?
Well, I mean, I used to work for a video game store before I started my YouTube channel, and it was a local store called People Play Games in Chicago, and it was pretty well known. And eventually, like, it just shut down. But basically, like, it was kind of like a dream job. So I was like, because I already had like a regular job, so I didn't have to like pay bills with the retail thing. So I was like, well, I'll work on that. And so every week, like, we get like 4 or 5 calls for Super Smash Brothers for the Nintendo 64, and like you can kind of like tell like, okay, what's gonna be like the hotter item, to buy and stuff. Like the Atari 2600 stuff that just sits, and then like eventually like Xbox stuff, gets a run on stuff. So I was like, why don't I um just kind of like follow like that pricing thing. And like, I was looking more and more on pricecharting.com, and basically like what really prompted me to was like when, game collecting on subreddit, on the subreddit or game collecting, they, would talk about like certain games, like I think the Data East collection was one of them for the Nintendo Wii. And I was like, man, this game is like always expensive. Like what's going on and stuff. And like you see like when something gets posted on our game collecting, like as soon everybody goes out and gets it, and eventually like the price goes up. So I was like, well, I kind of like analytics and stuff, like that's something that I want to do for like a future job and stuff. So I was kind of like leaned into that, part of like, because big data is, kind of a big thing, an in demand skill to have. So I was like, well, I can just, lean into that and go for it and see what happens.
And you've seen some pretty decent success with the videos. I mean, most of them get at least 1,000 views, if not a lot more, right?
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing too. It's like, I'm still kind of like learning how like to view trends and stuff for search trends to make sure that like my videos land like the way that they're supposed to, because like some of them, like the Atari Lynx, the Sega Game Gear, and some of the old like the lesser known consoles, they don't really hit as much. So like I'll do like GameCube and um the Vita, like actual like collector consoles and stuff. Like my next video will be the Switch. I did the Wii U and stuff. So it's like I kind of like know like what will hit and what won't. So that way I can like go. I think like the Silent Hill game one, like that just recently picked up. Like I think that only got like 500 or 600 views when it first started out. So it's kind of it's interesting, like from that perspective. You got to like analyze your trends and stuff to see what hits and stuff. And like the GameCube one really popped off because I used RGT's name on it for the first video that I did, because when the pandemic happened, like I didn't even like pay attention to the prices really. Like I wasn't, the before the pandemic hit, like I was just doing like just random consoles and stuff. I was like, and the format was like way different. Like I was like, here's the Dreamcast, like how it'll trend over time and stuff. And it's like most of the time I was like, yeah, just in the next year or so and stuff like that, be my guest. And then like some people were commenting, they're like, yeah, Dreamcast prices like Sonic Adventure 2 is like $70 now. And I think back then, like I think it was only like $20 or something like that. And I was like, yeah, whatever, it'll be $20 for the next like 3 or 4 years or something like that. And it just like went just bonkers. So, but now I'm like, yeah, like I'll try to figure out like what works and what doesn't and stuff, and then sprinkle in some evergreen content like that Trinitron's video that constantly gets views and stuff. Um, Same thing with like just random like searchable topics like that Roger Ebert versus the video game community that always gets views and stuff. So that's been like the goal of Retronomics, is to get people to like come to my channel not really expecting Retronomics content, and then they kind of like look around my channel and they're like, oh, like he talks about video game prices and stuff. Like I didn't know that that was content that I actually wanted. So they actually like come, you know, they come for something else, and then like they stay for the Retronomics, which is kind of been my strategy for the past couple of years.
Or they come for Retronomics and they watch the rest of your videos, right? One way or the other, you're putting the hook in the water and hoping some people bite.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing too. It's like, you know, some people like they come across the Retronomics stuff and like, yeah, they're like, oh wow. But the only problem with the Retronomics stuff is that it's got a it's got a short shelf life. It's got a little
Yeah.
bit longer now that game prices have kind of settled down. But like I would do that the GameCube video, and then like literally like a month and a half later, people are like, what are you even talking about? These prices aren't the way that you said that they are, and stuff like that. We're, you know, you're on crack or something. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Like I got into arguments with people. They would be like, where'd you get these prices from? I was like, well, if you look at it, like I published this video back in February, so
Right.
that's where I got the prices from. And it's April now, so I don't really know what to tell you. And, you know, but now like I used to put like exactly when the video was actually published in the top of the video, but now I don't do that anymore, because like I'm convinced that like YouTube listens and says like I if I put like a hard date on it, it'll like kind of only give it like a certain shelf life on it. But you know, nowadays like I'm like I try to make it as evergreen as possible, but also kind of mention too like, hey, FYI, the prices are accurate as of the publishing date of the video. And I don't even think I mentioned that in the Nintendo 3DS or the Vita one anymore. But
Yeah, the Vita one, I just watched that actually again earlier today because I watched it when you first launched. Anything that Vita related, I pretty much watch. I'm a huge Vita fan. I've bought all the games I'll probably ever buy though because of the price insanity that went on after it went like dead at the wrong time. The whole Vita line went dead at like the start of the pandemic essentially, and like everyone's like, to buy all the Vita games. Like, no, don't do that.
yeah, it's got a dedicated following and stuff, so you know you can appreciate like I think one of the bigger there's this guy, he like only does Vita content, and he looked at it and stuff like that, and he's like, wow, this is really cool. So like that's kind of the stuff that I'm like looking for, is like a lot of people that come across my channel, like the GameCube one, like Phoenix Resale, he's big into the GameCube stuff.
I know
And
that one too.
so he saw that and he commented on it and stuff. So it's that kind of stuff. It's like I'm still very niche, and a lot of people, like when the pandemic was going on, a lot of people were talking about video game prices. So I was kind of getting a lot of competition regarding it. So and like since I work full time, like sometimes I'll go 2 to 3 weeks in between videos and stuff, like, and it's just because like I have to work, you know, and I'm just like, you know, so some people like they're like, okay, like they figured out like that they can like batch do it. And since I get all my prices on pricecharting.com, like the prices, like they have to be accurate. So it's not like I can like make all of these videos in one day and then like just schedule them, because like they'll definitely be out of date by the time that they're published. So it's kind
I
of difficult.
understand what you're saying here. We posted this last week. We're taking a break. Be back next week.
Yeah, like I mean that's important to do, because it's like I said before, I don't make any money on this channel. Like
Not
it's
enough
just
to
a
talk about it anyway, right?
yeah, and I don't think that I'll ever make it like a full-time job at all. Um, you know, I there was like an opportunity where I could have like you know, quit my job or something like that and do this full time. I don't necessarily think that I would take that opportunity. I don't
It
know.
would depend on why for me specifically, but I'm curious what if it's not something that you would do as a full-time job, is there a reason why you do it? consistently? Do you just enjoy making the content? What is it that drives you to keep making content if you would never do it as a full-time job?
It's just a creative outlet. My full-time job is very boring, for the most part. Like it's not necessarily boring, but there's a certain way that you have to do things. So, like I'm an analyst and like I QA stuff. So it's like everything has to be accurate and stuff. There's no room for me to like be creative
Subjective.
if I want to. So it's like, so that this is kind of a good outlet because, over the time, like I've learned how to edit, like I've learned how to, shoot video and stuff. So it's not like I'm making a video to just like, make a video and stuff, but I've tried really hard to like make content that's like more creative and stuff. Like the playdate video was something that like I went to the park and stuff and like I shot, in my living room because like I wanted to like get it a little bit more like essay type videos and stuff. And those are the ones that I really want to make over time. And, those take the longest too. So it's like, being motivated and stuff is important. But so I don't really want to fall into this like routine where I'm constantly like, um, uh, where I'm constantly just like making Retronomics videos and stuff because like they're fun to make, they're easy to make, but they're also like I don't really want to get stuck in a rut.
You don't want to feel like you have to make a specific type of content all the time. You want to have that freedom to do what you want to do.
Yeah, and so like if I'm gonna make like this playdate video didn't get a lot of views, but it was fun to make, and so like that's an important thing about it. Like I don't want to be afraid to make a video that bombs, like because there's a lot of like people who are like, well, you can't stray from the algorithm or else it'll ruin your channel and you'll never be able to like get out of that rut. And it's like not really. Like I mean, if it YouTube specifically, like the way that it goes, if you're heavy into a specific topic and you change the topic, YouTube definitely isn't going to recommend that video to everybody.
No.
However, if you keep making that type of if you change gears and you make that type of content again and stuff like that, eventually like YouTube will start like to recommend that content, to more and more people and stuff. It's just like, I don't know, like I think a lot of people like they put too much emphasis into like the bigger channels who do this full time, where like the difference between like a 50,000 view video and a 10,000 view video is that they don't make rent that month, so like why would you take that risk?
You won't.
And that's why I don't want to do it full time, is because I can just like have fun with these videos, and like if it takes a while to come out, then it takes a while to come out, and that's something that I've like really tried to like be comfortable with myself, because like I would really try super hard to like commit to a deadline, and I would really just stress myself out, like, and by the time the video is done I don't even want to do videos anymore, so I have to like
Right.
I burn myself out too quick. But now I'm like, well, if a video doesn't come out on Wednesday, then I can also release it on Thursday or Friday or Saturday. And now like it literally just doesn't matter what day did you post the video. Like it's just a matter of like how popular the topic is and who's about to watch and stuff.
Yeah, some of our most popular videos were happy accidents. It was just like posted at the right time with the right subject without even trying. So like I've pretty much given up on trying to follow any trends and just post what I want to, or do whatever topic we want to, or because we run a podcast every Saturday. So it's like, what is the topic going to be? Well, we'll just make it up that day. Like, who cares?
Yeah, and that's kind of thing. I have some of my content planned out. For the most part, I have like a rough outline of like what topics that I want to cover. But yeah, like I mean, ultimately, like if you're a smaller channel and you're seeing like a large channel like Spawn Wave or RGT85 talk about it, like chances are that like the topic is dead by the time that you talk about it.
Exactly.
So, and I think that's what some people like they get caught up on, like they're like, oh, I'll talk about Nintendo Switch news. I'm like, you do realize that like RGT like sleeps and breathes, Nintendo Switch. So it's like, the guy doesn't sleep. He just like, wakes up and just does videos all the time. So it's like, how do you even compete with that? You don't, like, unless you manage to break something that
he doesn't even know about.
Yeah, because like he knows, and like, he's gotten big enough where now he's he's got some leads and stuff, like some, sources and stuff that will, feed him like information and stuff. So it's like, you can't, like, by the time it hits Reddit or something like that, it's probably already too late. So, and that's, as a small channel and stuff like that, it's easy to like learn how to do the format by doing it that way. But
it's
eventually,
discouraging though to see all the views go to one person like that. But he's put the work in. I actually like Sean quite a bit. I don't know how well you know RGT85, but I've gotten to talk to him a few times. Really nice guy, honestly.
Yeah, I've never like met him in person or anything like that, but like, yeah, like he's a chill guy. And like, Adam Karolic, he's a Chicago guy. So like I've met Adam, and Adam's known RGT and stuff. So I mean, it that's kind of the thing, is like, it's really easy to just like get jealous of like the larger channels who like rake in all these views. But it's like, if you go back to like his original like content from, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, it's like, it's vastly different than, what he has and stuff. And I think that's like very important, is like, you really need to like learn how that everybody starts the same way as you are. And you just have to like learn specifically about like this kind of stuff. Like, you can't just throw out a video and just hope that the algorithm takes it and you become YouTube famous and stuff. I mean, I've seen a lot of people who are like, well, I have X amount of subscribers and I don't have that many views. Like, if I have 7,000 subscribers, I better be getting 7,000 views and stuff. I don't understand it. And
that's
it's like,
not how it works though.
yeah. And you need to understand that, like, as your channel ages, like the subscribers that you get, they come here for a different video and stuff. Like, you have to like go into your analytics and see who's subscribing to your video and like what kind of content they're here for. Like when my channel popped off because of the Atari VCS, there were people who only wanted to see Atari VCS videos. Like, I did 3 videos in a row about the Atari VCS. That was the first time that I actually like did like multiple videos on like a specific subject. And like, I followed it up with a Game Boy game review, and it just bombed. And like, or no, I like posted, I was like, because at the beginning of each year, I do like a New Year's resolutions thing. I do a recap of my channel. I give people a thing about like what they can expect for the year and stuff. And like one of the comments is like, where's the Atari VCS videos? Like, when are you going to make more Atari VCS videos? I was like, can you hold on, please? Like, it's, I think, yeah, like I think it was this one, or it's, yeah, or maybe it was the Game Boy one, but it was just like, yeah, it's like, oh, we need the Atari VCS. Look more, he's like, love to see more Atari VCS videos. And it's just like, I honestly, like, I don't, like, if a subject isn't like appealing to me anymore, like I don't really want to talk about it anymore. Cause like, you guys know, like, my audience would know that I'm not really invested into the subject anymore and stuff, like, I'm just like, I really want to like go and, like make content that's interesting to me, but I'm not going to just like run the well dry, like certain channels and stuff. That, I mean, more power to them if they can actually keep it up. But like, I just, eventually I'm just like, man, there's really nothing to talk about the Atari VCS anymore. Like, I'm just kind of just like,
and at some point, if you're not excited, the audience is going to catch on to the fact that you're not excited to make the content, because it does leak through whether you think it does or not. Some people don't get that. They'll keep making videos on the same subject over and over and over again, not recognizing that like it is dead and you are dead talking about it. And that's a really important thing to distinguish. I never feel like when you put out a video in particular that it's something you didn't want to put out. Not anytime recent, anyways. I haven't watched all of your content.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing is like I don't want to feel forced to make videos and stuff. Like there was a video game review that I did, it's like Combinera, and I had gotten a key for that. And like I kind of just like sat on the key because I was like, well, I'll make the video whenever I make it and stuff. And then they really harassed me about it because it was like a publishing company that like gives out keys and stuff, and they're like, where's the review, where's the well, I was like, all right, fine, like here you go, like here's the review, like like, and you could tell like it wasn't necessarily like a good video, and it wasn't something that I wasn't necessarily proud of, but I felt like obligated that I had to do the review. And it kind of fit with the channel because it was for the Atari VCS and it was published by Atari, but like I just stopped doing like game reviews just because like they don't hit well, and it's like I don't do necessarily things for the views, but it does get discouraging when it's very clear that nobody wants to see it.
Oh yeah, especially if you're very enthusiastic or you care very much about something, and then it's almost like the lack of criticism or the lack of viewership is like, wow, I guess either nobody watched it or they just didn't care.
Yeah, the local pixel thing that really just bombed. I The bad thing was that I started that at the beginning of 2020, and like I went to this board game cafe, and that was like what I really wanted to do was like go to places around Chicago and like film on location and like go and do interviews with people and stuff. And then it's like pandemic, and I was like, great, like I have to like figure out like how to do this. So I was like, how do I do this? And it just didn't really work out. And what really killed it was I interviewed Steve Downs, and he's the voice of Master Chief.
Yep.
And he's also the host of, he was a local DJ here in Chicago and stuff. So I was like, oh, can I interview you? And he was like, yeah, sure, man. Like, he's really down to earth. And I did this, video and stuff. And I was going to do it like a documentary style and stuff. And like, then I was like, you know what, like, let's put it up as like a podcast. And it got like 38 views when everything else was getting like 1,000 views and stuff. And I was just like, oh, like so I deleted the video. That's the first time in a very long time that I've ever deleted a video off.
That's
of my
actually
channel.
something I'd love to see. I'm kind of sad it's not in there anymore.
It's there's a local Pixels channel that I have, so like it's still available. That was the thing, is like I was like, I don't even know if I have it like put up or something like that, but like I don't know if I actually like subscribe to myself or not. But like that was
find it.
Yeah, it like yeah, there it is. So like I was like, I want to like put some more effort into it, and then I never really got around to it. Like I think it's 10 months ago. So it's like, do I still want to do it or something like that? I don't know. It's really hard for me to like split focus between different projects and stuff. And I think that was one of the really big things that really like didn't gel well because like I really wanted to put a lot of effort into it. I want to put like a lot of specific like time and effort and stuff like that into it, and it just like didn't pan out the way that I really wanted it to.
There you go. We're gonna post it on our community page. Hopefully somebody from Halo will see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's it was a fun like video and stuff, and people who watched it, they enjoyed it. It's just a matter, I mean, like it's at 105 views now and stuff. It's like I really want to put some effort back into that local Pixels thing, but it's just like I can't. It's a matter of like just splitting my focus and stuff, and it's just
doing a podcast and trying to be creative at the same time is a huge focus splitter. It's very difficult.
Yeah, and like that was the thing. I was like, well, do I want to turn it into a podcast, or do I want to do a little documentary, style and stuff? And like, I know a lot of people who, are in Chicago that are part of the industry and stuff. Like, I know a handful of indie developers. I'm friends of a friend who are part of the Young Horses who did Octodad and Bug Snacks. And, I know a handful of people who like work on game sound design and stuff, and so it's like I have the connections to do it. It's just a matter of like actually like sitting down and actually doing it. So
Yeah, so the only interview I've seen you actually do, and I'm gonna watch this one later now that I know it exists. But the Tommy Tallarico interview you did, how did you decide to do it? And I have basically not seen any interviews since. I'm assuming you're not doing interviews as a part of your channel. But how did that come about, and what did you like? How did that go for you?
so basically like it started out where um what did start I gotta get like go back and because I think what I did was when I did my video um about the Amico versus the Atari VCS. I think that was the first time that I
Yep.
actually like talked about the Amico, and he had commented on it, and like I had been getting into that specific like uh into the Amico and stuff, and back then like he was very aggressive when it came to like actually reaching out and talking to people.
Oh yeah.
And so I was like I didn't necessarily like want to do an interview at the time, not necessarily because like I didn't like him or anything like that. It was just mainly because like with interviews and stuff, like big long videos like this, they don't really fit with my channel.
Right.
So, but eventually, like, I would comment like where he was on streams and stuff like that. And like he was eventually like, I really want to talk to you and stuff. And I was like, you know what? All right, fine. Like, because I had been making Amico content or something like that, and people were like, you got to talk to him and stuff. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And I had given because Smash JT, like he was really you know big buddy with Tommy, and he did that Ferrari ride, and the Ferrari ride, the questions that he asked, those were my questions. Like I gave Smash those questions to ask Tommy and stuff, and like so all of those questions were mine. So I was like, you know what? Let's talk to him and stuff and see where it goes, because I was just like I and this unscripted thing, like it was kind of a thing that I really wanted to see if I could get into. And he he was a person that like I was like, man, I got some good questions that I want to ask him, because I don't see anybody asking questions. Either they're too like gushy about him, or they're too hostile.
Yeah, there's a
Um
lot of people that were in both of those camps. There's very few right down the middle.
yeah, and so like that's the thing, is like for an interview and stuff, like when I interview people, I want to have a conversation with them, and I want to ask them certain questions and stuff. And like, I want to keep it going. Like, I used to work as a manager, and when I would interview people for jobs and stuff, like that's how I would do it. I wouldn't go like, uh, what is your opinion on, like, what is your favorite color? Like I would, keep it like a conversation going and stuff, and slip questions in there to like get it going. So like I had some questions regarding like, and I now if you like go back onto it, I kind of put him on the spot, and it's one of the reasons why he never really reached back out to me in the future. Because like if now it's okay to talk about him, like he's not going to come out and hide me or anything like that, and just make sure that he's not behind me or anything. But like
It puts the
like
lotion on the
he's
skin.
he's pretty much disappeared now. But like um the thing is that like you really had to be a fan of him for him to give you attention. And that was the one thing, is like he had said like at the video, he's like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna retweet it and stuff like that. The Intellivision thing is gonna retweet it, and he never did. And even I asked him too, like I was like, I sent him a DM, I was like, hey, like can you tweet this out and stuff. He's like, oh yeah, just ask tag the Intellivision team or something like that. We'll retweet it. And he never did. And the reason why, like, one is like, because I kind of, pressed him on stuff, because like I'm familiar with what indie devs and stuff like that they do. Like, there's a local indie festival. It's called Bit Bash here. And basically, like, these indie devs, they take this technology, they do crazy stuff with it. Like, there was a person who did a dungeon crawler on 1 pixel line. Like, it was an LED strip, and it's a dungeon crawler with like 1 pixel and stuff. Or they get a whole bunch of PlayStation moves, and like, it was a wizard duel where you're walking around and you're like trying to shoot each other with like wands and stuff. Like, fun, interesting things to do with the games. And like, I had asked him, I was like, hey, like, have you reached out to any like indie devs about, potentially like doing something really wild with this console? And he's like, yeah, like. And I was like, yeah, like, because on my iPad, like, I have like this weird game. It's called Pinball Wizard, and it's an RPG that is a pinball game.
Right.
Like, how cool is that? And stuff. He's like, oh, well, who's the developer on that? Like, he didn't really like know specifically about like what new indie developers were doing specifically. But at the end of the video, like, after it ends and stuff, like, I didn't even record it because I was like, whatever, I don't really care at the time. But one of the things too, I was like, hey, like, that went really well and stuff. And I told him, I was like, I didn't really bring up Pat and Ian at the time because I didn't really want to, like, at the time I didn't really want to be controversial on my channel and stuff. I didn't really want to, like, I don't want to attract that type of audience. And he's like, yeah, like, it is what it is and stuff like that. Like, he didn't really say anything negative about him, but you can tell that he just, wasn't really thinking. I was like, yeah, I respect Pat and, for like what he does and stuff, because at the time, like, Tommy was like, oh, he's just like some 200,000, view subscriber YouTube channel. He's nothing and stuff. I was like, well, his podcast actually gets decent amount of traction, like on Spotify and like all these other platforms and stuff. He's got quite the following, and like, you should probably take him seriously and like be careful about like what you do and stuff, because he has a habit of, like, if he catches hold of something, he won't let it go. And this is like way before, like, he really like dug into it, and he's like, okay, sure, whatever, like, he kind of just like brushed me off. I was like, hey, you do what you got to do, but like, ultimately, like, it's one of those things, like, he just comes off as like a person who just knows better than what than you do. And he just took me as a person who just wouldn't take your advice unless it was the same idea that he had. So that's when I just, like, I stopped. I was like, you know what, forget it. Like, I don't really want to, like, one, I don't really want to go too hard into him specifically,
Right.
because of like his his little band of goons and stuff like that who like would comment on my channel and stuff. I had to like ban a handful of them because like they would dox certain other creators and stuff, and like it was just really nasty all around. And but yeah, I was just like, I don't really want to deal with this. And like, I kind of wish that I went a little bit harder on the Amico when I did, instead of like being like in the middle of the road. But I mean, at the end of the day though, like, I think I did a pretty good job of making it pretty clear about like where people stood. And like, if you were a person who was new to the Amico, you can kind of tell like what to do and stuff, like, I'm not like a hype channel. Like, I speak fairly like slow and everything. I get complaints about that all the time. And it's just like, it's not worth it for me to be just like, the Amico sucks. Like, here's 10 reasons why it sucks. And it's just like, even like with my limited run video where I was, kind of like, I went hard on with them. Like, even then I'm like not that hard and stuff. I think like some people, like, they've accused me of like essentially making ads for these videos and stuff because I'm not like hard on it. I was like, I don't know what you want me to say. Do you want me to say that it sucks? Because like that's
That's not
not
how
the
you
reason why I
feel.
make the videos. Like I generally don't cover things that I think are bad.
You're
Um
critical of things that you like in order to make them better.
yeah, and like that's I mean, ultimately like, Tommy specifically, like when we had these videos and stuff, like I didn't really want to be on his bad side specifically because like, it wasn't like a badge of honor and stuff like, but he definitely just like stopped talking to me, specifically and stuff. And like, that's kind of a manipulation tactic that, he used specifically. And you can kind of tell the people who went full hog on the Amico and stuff, like they were people who constantly needed that affirmation from him.
Hmm.
And like, that's one of the reasons why like he got people jazzed for the Amico in the first place, because like, you see how he talks and everything like that. He's very enthusiastic regardless of whether or not you think he's full of beans. But like,
He's got charisma.
yeah, he's got charisma, and like he's he's got this like salesman pitch and stuff like that, where he's like, hey, come here, like let me tell you, like let me talk to you a little bit, and like let me think. And like that's the reason why he's managed to like get Rich from Review Tech USA and stuff. Like I point out to him because like he's like the largest channel I think who's ever talked to Tommy and on the Amico. And so it's like when you talk face to face with somebody, it's really difficult for you to then like talk smack to them and
Yeah,
stuff.
you're not
And
gonna
like,
be like, "Hey, dude, you suck." Like that's who's gonna
yeah,
do that?
and that's kind of the thing. You want to be cordial and everything, and like that's ultimately like what you know that's the reason why the Amico took so long for detractors and stuff like that to actually finally like turn the tide and be like, you see, like it's bad. Like, Slope's game room, like he got really hosed on that because like
Oh
he
yeah,
talked to Tommy specifically, and it's like, and people are like, that's the worst interview that I've ever seen and stuff like that. You didn't go hard on him. It's like, well, what do you expect? Like, this
it's
isn't.
easy until Tommy's in the room and you're talking to him and you're like, "Oh, I understand now."
Yeah, and like that's kind of the thing too. Is like he's a guy who like he'll talk to you and he'll be just like, and at the time too, like when I did this, so like in 2020, like it was the council got delayed at the time to April, and you know, you kind of want to take his word for it at the time, not necessarily like, oh, this thing is going to go to the moon and I'm going to invest a whole bunch of money, but you don't really want to like, there was no reason specifically like at the time to like really really just be like, this thing is a scam. And I think that's what really like irked people who were against this system in the first place, was because they went really hard on it. They're like, this is the Coleco chameleon. Like this is
Yeah,
something that he's gonna take your money and run. Like he's gonna do this. Like blah blah blah. And eh, you know, it's like, maybe like now we know and stuff that like for the most part it's gonna be a very long shot if the console gets out, or at the very least, people who put pre-order money is gonna see their refunds anymore. Um,
I don't think
so
that just to be clear, I don't think it started as a scam. I think once they realized the writing was on the wall, things really changed.
um
That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, that's how I saw it too. Because like that's kind of the thing, is like when I said like, I get the Atari VCS on pre-order, he was like, those guys are pretty scummy, like they kind of, I don't really trust them, like he definitely was kind of a guy who was like, I don't even know about these guys. So I think generally he had every intention of making the console. Like
I
I
think so
don't doubt
too.
that for a second. Um that it's kind of unfair for that, of for people who chronicling it from the start, being like, it's a scam, like he's just gonna like walk away with your money. And it's like, if he was, then it's a very like not worthwhile scam.
Right, exactly.
Like it's one of those things where it's like, why wouldn't he just like take the investor money and to just like leave the country or something like that? And
because his name's plastered all over it. It's really bad imagery for him.
yeah, I mean, like he's banking his entire reputation on on this thing. Like he put like all of his reputation on it and stuff like that. He tried real, you could tell that this is a passion project for him. And I'm personally like like I'm disappointed that he didn't really take advice from people from the start on how to actually like go about it. And
Yeah,
that's the
that's
most
fair.
thing
That's
that's
a
really
very fair
disappointing for me.
criticism. That is extremely fair to criticize him for not taking advice. He never did. Like, to be fair.
Yeah, like I mean, and that's kind of the thing. It's like, he's like when you go back to it and stuff, because a lot of people are like, oh, he said it was a family game console. It's like, well, it kind of was a retro console from the start. Like when he pitched that thing, it wasn't necessarily about families. It was like a retro reimagining of Intellivision that a lot of people were like really excited for. Like the first question, like he pitched it to like some uh small retro YouTuber. His name is Brian's Man Cave. And I remember that was the first time I saw an interview with him. And Brian's Man Cave, like the guy plays in television games all the time. Like he, he really loves like that like old games and stuff. Like that's all he talks about and stuff. And
Yeah,
like,
that's a long time ago.
yeah, so like he definitely like he was one of the first. I don't know exactly specifically on like but it's kind of the thing though. It's like he was excited, genuinely excited about the Intellivision and stuff. And when because I wrote an article based off of this review, this interview, and at the time he didn't mention anything about like family gaming or anything like that. He was just like, hey, like it's the Intellivision, like I'm gonna reimagine these Intellivision games. People are like, oh well, is it gonna have like a cartridge slot so we can play old Intellivision games? He's like, well, I don't know. Like, he wasn't necessarily like, I don't know, he pivoted really quick. And like I think there's all these rumors about it, that he pitched it to the Metal Jesus Rocks folks and some other investors at E3 in before he released it to the PRGE when he unveiled the whole thing. And so the rumor is that he pitched that to investors, and the investors were like, "No, we don't see it." And so like that's when he like pivoted to like the family thing. And I think just ultimately it's like, like it had the Intellivision thing, like it had potential to like do something. And like he really tried hard to reinvent the wheel. And like it's really frustrating as a person who grew up with an Intellivision. Like I still have my dad's original system, to see it just drop the ball so hard and him to react so hard to the criticism behind it and stuff. And like especially like when people are like, the Atari VCS, it's a scam, like nobody, no one's ever going to get that thing, that's vaporware and stuff. Like the Intellivision Amico, at least it's coming out and stuff. And it's like,
I had that same feeling, honestly, because there were so many delays on the VCS and there was so much experience behind the Intellivision. Like it just had that air of like, oh, this is going to come out, the industry's behind it. And then with the Atari, it was like, oh, it was like some, at least at the time, the air was some guy bought this company and he's just vaporware, right? That was the idea.
And to that credit and stuff, like the Atari VCS, like the Atari in general, like it didn't have any debt. Like he met like Fred Chenet like managed to get that out of debt, but like they eventually pushed him out because he really went hard into the crypto. And like they were like, we got to like pivot a little bit. So now you can kind of see that they're like focusing more on like their actual legacy stuff. But I really think that like the Intellivision probably could have like used an FPGA Intellivision system, like a brand new one with like modern controllers to play your old games on. Like
so
I think,
can I just tell you why that never even had a chance of getting off the ground?
sure.
The bulk of FPGA developers, especially analog, have a bad relationship with Tommy.
Yeah, I've seen that with Coutress really definitely just doesn't like him.
Yeah.
I didn't really I and that's kind of thing is like I try to stay out of the drama loop.
Well, I'm just saying, like, just not having a good working relationship with a company like Analog, who puts out most of the FPGAs in the gaming, and then like the open source, was it Meister or Mister, however you pronounce that word?
Yeah, Mister,
Those are
yeah.
pretty much the only two like real big prominent FPGA developer or open source development projects, neither of which are open, or like with the Meister project, that's not going to be something you're going to approach. You're not going to go with an open source project with a business. It's like Analog is really the only option unless you want to figure out how to make retro USB. I think it's just one guy that does that. Unless you can figure out how to work with him. But if you're not good with Analog, I'm not sure how you're going to make that device come to market unless you got a bunch of FPGA developers.
Yeah, I mean, like I guess we'd have to figure out like what the because there's the Phoenix.
That's
Um,
true. Yeah, Collector Vision. I forgot. Games 81. That's right. His company.
yeah, so like I mean, ultimately, like that's kind of the thing. You know, hindsight is always 2020, and like I think, there's a whole bunch of different things that you could have done with the Intellivision. You know, like you could probably even make a Switch controller that looks like an Intellivision controller and like release like a collection of Intellivision games, to generate income. But it seemed like he just really just tried to fake it until he made it, and like he just ran out of money before it came time to go. So
It was like producing an album where like all the pieces were there, at least in his mind. All the pieces are there, and you can kind of put it all together right at the end to make a CD. That doesn't really work with a gaming console.
yeah, and like also like you can kind of see behind the scenes, like he definitely had a timeline
Oh
of
yeah,
what
he did.
needed to be done. And like, everybody likes to clown on him for blaming the chip shortage and stuff, but like that really threw him through a loop. Um
Yeah,
and
never
like
produced a console before and a chip shortage at the same time. Like
yeah,
that would
and
have
like
thrown anybody for a loop.
and that's kind of the thing is like I've I'm somebody specifically about like I'm kind of almost the same way where I have like a timeline for it, and like if something hits a snag and stuff, it like it really throws off your mojo and stuff. But I've never like been like a $1 million, multi-million dollar company and stuff where it's like it's happened like that. But you can kind of tell like he really wanted to call the shots. And I'm pretty sure that there was a handful of people who talked to him and been like, hey, like you probably shouldn't be talking to all of these YouTubers. And that's one thing that I wish I would have warned him about, because I was like, in the back of my head, I was like, you better watch what you say, because like at the time, like the Intellivision Amico like critics and stuff, like they were already like keeping really good track of like what he was saying, and
Mm-hmm.
like already catching him in contradictions and stuff. And like so I'm like, you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall at this point. Like people would ask him, they were like, hey, like is Contra coming out for the Intellivision Amico? He's like, oh, wouldn't that be something, like that would be pretty cool and stuff, like, and you have these fans that are like, Contra's coming, and like,
Oh,
and it's a whole thing. And like my last a television versus Atari VCS video, I warned the dedicated channels. I was like, FYI, like you better be careful, specifically about banking on a console that hasn't released yet, because
oh yeah, that's a
if
bad
it doesn't
idea.
come out, like you're gonna be screwed. And like you can kind of tell like other channels and stuff like that, are still around and stuff, like they really tried to like pivot, and it didn't work out to them, because it's like all you're doing is talking about Amico 24/7. You're doing an Amico podcast, you're going to these Crayola events and like all this other stuff. You're also harassing people who don't like the console. And and the same thing goes too with like the people who dedicated like the channel about like keeping track of the Amico. It's like this is dying down now. It's like, what other content are you guys good for? And it's like, you do realize that a lot of people, they only stuck around specifically because of the Amico, and like once that's dried up, they're like, oh, we'll go to another creator that we like.
Yeah, honestly, it was funny because we did cover the Amico maybe twice on our channel. We did one where we had like a will it be successful, won't it be successful, and the second one was essentially just the conversation about with Tommy Tallarico. And what was funny was I post a poll. I used to do this all the time. I post a poll like, hey, do you guys want to hear about these 5 topics? And it was always dead last. Like, nobody who was following our channel actually wanted to hear about the Amico, which was a little disheartening because I had a pre-order on it. And I was like, I kind of want to talk about this a little bit because it's like this niche console that I might get eventually. And I did eventually, pull my money out. I did. I didn't leave it in there.
Yeah, I'm letting it ride. So I mean, it's probably gone, but like, I mean, that's kind of I'm like, oh, I'm holding out hope, because like, I just as a joke, like for the most part, I got like a video planned
We got
specifically,
It's
like,
Real 2.0 coming for the Intellivision Amico.
yeah, like, well, not so if it comes out, like, yeah, I'll probably do a real thing and like do a review and stuff. But if it turns out that the console like bombs and like they come out and they announce, they're like, yeah, we're closing our doors, no more Amico, sorry, like I've got a video plan for that too. Like it'll be a little bit more creative. I had actually like thought about like renting a Ferrari, and it's like that was like too expensive. I was like, oh, I don't think I could justify spending that much on it. I
You'd
was
have
like,
to like guarantee like this will have a ton of views in order to go that far with it.
yeah, I'm like, and that's, going back to like buying stuff specifically for the channel and stuff. I'm like, I'll be like, I thought about it. I'm like, oh, maybe I could like settle for a Fiero or something like that, but like,
Hey, the
I think,
Fiero is cool. I like Fieros.
oh, I was trying to like look for one and stuff. I was like, but man, like there's a handful of Fieros that are like, so like somebody put like a freaking Cadillac North Star engine
Oh my
into the back
gosh.
of this thing. I was like, oh my god. It's like, yeah, it's only $5,000. I was like, oh, like I was like,
It's
I was like,
only
I got, yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna kill myself because like like I get, like the wheels will probably fall off or something like that. I don't know. I don't know enough about cars to buy a used car and like put up with all the maintenance and everything like that anymore. I don't even have the space to work on that stuff. But yeah, I thought about something creative and stuff. Like there's some Amico, um, I live in Chicago, so like there's some Italian landmarks and stuff like that that I could go by and stuff. Like I figured it out, but man, like they're not saying anything. So I don't want to make a video and like them come out and like have it just like be outdated. Like if I'm gonna put the effort into it, it better be like either a post-mortem on it where it's like it's totally dead and buried, or the console comes out and like, I do a review on it.
that was my like honest to God, like the second I found out this console's coming out, I'll keep it short. It was very different from everything else that was on the market. And that was what intrigued me. Like kind of like the Vita was so different from every other portable I'd ever seen. So I bought it. And then I'm actually happy I bought it because I like the games on it. But like that was the one thing that intrigued me because I have a Switch. I've got a PS4. I got an Xbox One. I got all the consoles. Xbox One and PS4 weren't doing anything all that special. Just games, good games. The hardware was like, okay, black box. Switch was different. And then there was the Amiga. I was like, ooh, that's very different. I'll try it. That was my whole thought process.
Yeah, and like that's the kind of thing. I was like, man, I really hope he comes to Chicago. Like I would
You
make
want to
it.
try it?
Yeah, make the time and effort to go to Chicago. Like I'm not going to go to Pennsylvania. I'm not going to go
No.
to California or anything like that. He was very particular about like where he was like putting it and stuff, and I'm like, because like, but yeah, like I'm like I want to see this thing. Like I want to see what it'll do and stuff. Like I've been interested in Arduinos and stuff. I'm like, maybe I'll just
Arduinos
make
are
one.
cool too.
Maybe I'll make my own. Because like I made like a Mister controller. Like I'm trying to like make my Mister like into like a console type thing, and like I got like a little knob that can turn and like select the menus and stuff. So I was like, you know, so it's like, oh, it creates like essentially a USB controller on that. So like how difficult would it be to make a
some concept of an Intellivision Amico.
yeah, I was like, maybe I'll make it like an April Fool's joke or something like that. Be like the Super Nintendo console is here and stuff like that. And like, I don't know. I've thought about like making like an April Fool's joke, and I was like, man, I don't really want to go through all the effort.
So how much programming experience do you have?
None. Like I really
So you're
don't.
just teaching yourself all this stuff on the side.
Yeah, I don't like. Back in the day, like 20 years ago, I used to program my TI-83 calculator, and then like I unfortunately like got into peer pressure about like what was worthwhile and what wasn't. And at the time, like I went into like chemical engineering instead of like computer programming.
Yeah, but
And
that's like that's really difficult to do.
it is difficult. Like I failed out of college because of that. Like it was one of those things like back 20 years ago, like I didn't really know what to do with my life. And like I thought like what was going to make me money instead of what I was actually passionate about. So nowadays, like programming specifically, like to learn how to like actually do the programs, like I'm learning very quickly that my mind doesn't work the way that a programmer's mind works. I have learned a little bit of Python
That's a
to help.
great tool to learn.
Yeah, and it's to help me with my specifically for data visualization and everything like that.
Mhm.
But as far as like the Adreno code, like I think I found it somewhere, and I kind of like tweaked around with it because like
Massaged it.
that's how my mind works. Is like I have to have like a finished project and then like deconstruct it and then see how it works and stuff and then like build my own. That's just the way that I learn. So I learn in really half-assed ways. Like when my first video that I ever edited took me like 8 hours to edit because I didn't know that you could like take the little razor tool and cut the clips. I was like dragging the clips to my timeline and then shortening them specifically. I was like, man, this is taking forever. And then like I think it was like 4 or 5 videos in, like I finally like looked up, a thing and it was like, oh, just use this little razor tool. And like I was like, oh, you could do that. And it's like, so it's those are one of those things. I do like an outside in thing. Like if I figure out something that I want to do, I'll Google it and then I'll find a tutorial that like really requires like a whole bunch of stuff. Like my animations, the first things that I did, like I did them all from scratch and I was like, oh man. And then eventually they were like, yeah, you can just drag and do a preset. Like Adobe has all these presets. And I was like, are you kidding me? So like that's ultimately how I learn is like I do it really complicated and eventually I find like the most easy way to do it. So
I actually, the way you just described it, like that's literally how I do a lot of things actually. So I like to refer to it as reverse engineering.
Yeah, I mean it's ultimately like for me it's very inefficient on how to learn and everything like that. So I wish that I had started from the beginning or something like that, but I've been learning a lot about like how my mind works and how I've learned and everything. So it's a matter of like now I'm using it to my advantage.
100%. So if you were going to give advice to somebody starting a YouTube channel in the current present day, what would you say to them?
Well, I would say that you really need to decide what you want to do with your channel first and foremost. You really want to I would say like if you really want to do YouTube, you got to decide whether or not you want to do it full time or do you want to do it as a hobby. And I think a lot of people they get caught up with seeing that, these people do it full time and they make it look easy and they're essentially playing video games and getting paid for it. And you kind of have to understand that like it's a lot more work than it looks. Mm-hmm. And if you see a YouTuber who makes it look easy, then it means that they're doing a really good job. So like I think that's ultimately like if you think that you should do like if you think that you can do YouTube, you definitely should. Just understand that like It's not going to be easy. Like, you know, depending on like if you get into gaming specifically, you probably aren't going to pop off unless you have a huge niche. You know, like, or if you have a hook, like Arlo, the guy's a puppet. Like, you know, I
Yeah.
met the guy and stuff. He's just like this lanky guy who just runs around with a puppet on his hand and stuff. Like he's, you know, that's his hook. Like where he does the puppet thing. He's got this the shrill voice and stuff. And like, you know, there's other channels that have been, you know, coming up, like the Retro Bird. I think he's been doing content for years before he finally like popped off and stuff. Like he was at like 4 or 5,000 subscribers before he started popping off and stuff. Like now he's at like 25,000 right now. So he's kind of like learned how to like feed his audience and stuff, and you can kind of see that his videos are pretty consistent to like his general content. Like he doesn't necessarily like um deviate too much from his original formula. So I think that's ultimately like what you need to do is like you really want to make sure that you're you know your audience, you know what they want, and be true to yourself specifically. And you need to be able to take you need to be able to look at yourself objectively, because I think there's a lot of people out there who like they look at it, they get smashed in the views, like their their videos get like 20 views or if at most, and they're like, oh, it's the algorithm's fault, like the algorithm isn't promoting my channel. And it's like, well, what are you doing specifically to get yourself noticed by the algorithm and stuff? You should be asking yourself those questions, like what can I do specifically for my video? Like you look at your thumbnails and stuff, like what kind of thumbnails are going to grab people and stuff. You can't just like put like, you can go all the way back to my original videos and stuff, and you see like how bad those thumbnails looked and stuff, and like how just like basic they were and stuff, like barely anything on there and stuff. And you can kind of see the evolution of it. And like
Same
that's
goes for our
kind of,
channel. FYI,
yeah,
like our original thumbnails are like
yeah, you have to like learn specifically, excuse me, you have to learn specifically how to do that stuff. And like there's a lot of people who are just like, well, this is just a hobby for me and stuff. And it's like, well, what is the hobby? Is it video games? Is the video games the hobby where you're just shooting like a random video and you post it up on YouTube or something? Because if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But like if you want people to watch your stuff, like YouTube specifically has to be your hobby, and you need to know how YouTube works, like how to make a video, how to make thumbnails, how to make sure that your videos are ranked specifically, how to grab people's attention and stuff. You don't need like a $3,500 camera like I do, or a $500 microphone. Like you don't need that stuff, but you do have to have like a basic knowledge of how to put a video together that it's you have to have a personality too. You can't just be like, well, here's this video game and I bought it because I got it. Like you have to put some effort into it. Like you can't just throw out random stuff. Like I know a lot of bigger channels and stuff like that, they can do whatever they want because they have an audience that will watch whatever they put out. But like if you're just starting out, you have to really like pay attention to the trends, and also maybe get a little bit controversial. Not necessarily like say something really outlandish, but like you definitely have to go against like sometimes of the grain and stuff. You have to be prepared to like say something that might not be part of like the actual like consensus. Like
but you have to be able to back it up too. Like don't just say things.
oh yeah, like I mean that's kind of thing. The smaller the channel, like the smaller you are as a channel, the more evidence that you're going to have to present in order for people to take you seriously.
Oh yeah,
100%.
Like,
that Metal Jesus Rocks video, like I had 200 games. I like shared the spreadsheet of it and stuff. Like I shared all my work and everything. But nowadays I'm like, like here's what it is and stuff, and I'll show you. But like, a person like RGT85, like he can just be like, well, I think that it's gonna go this way, and people are like, oh, that does sound right, because unfortunately sub counts do matter.
They do,
and
to an
and
extent.
like and so like I mean half the time like people were like, oh, they're like, oh, what do you know, you only have 200 subs. I'm like, well, it's not like I'm like 5 years old, like I know what I'm talking about, but like so but
You
yeah,
heard
that's
what he
my
said.
my
RGT85 is a great guy. Check out our interview with him as well.
yeah, definitely. Like he's pretty chill. Like I mean, and that's the kind of thing, is like he's okay with he'll have a conversation with you if you want to and stuff. Like he's definitely not a person who like thinks he's above everybody else just because
No,
he's
he does
got
not.
500,000 subscribers.
But I think that's one of the things is don't change who you are to suit an audience, because eventually the cracks will show through. Like Super Nicktendo over here has always been the kind of the same person, but improved how he presents himself, if that makes sense. So I think you've done a great job in your YouTube journey, and your videos are doing much better because of that.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I appreciate that, because like that's one thing that I've learned too, is like you have to be it's going to be very obvious if you're fake. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people think that they can pull a fast one, but it's painfully obvious when somebody is doing a bit. um and especially like it's a matter of like, if you're constantly being outraged for just the random dumb things and stuff, that like are insignificant, like, oh, is the play date worth $180? Like, are you really fired up about that, or are you just doing it to kind of like lean into, get people upset? Because like there are bigger channels out there who are like, they're straight up just acting. It's like what they
It's
play
very
on YouTube
clear.
is it's a character, and maybe it goes over people who are a little bit younger and stuff, but like for adults, like
Mm.
it's painfully obvious.
And then there's channels that lean into it into a comedic standpoint, like AVGN, like classic, very much an act, but also very informative and comedic. So I wouldn't say you can't have an act, but at the same time, like you're saying, if you're presenting information, you got to be yourself.
Yeah, and you have to be consistent too. You can't just be like outraged in one video and then the next video like chill and like mute and stuff like that. If you're going to be a character, you have to be on 24/7.
Yes.
That's one thing, if you want to be a comedy channel and stuff, you do skits and stuff, like you probably want to do skits. Think about like how much time you're going to dedicate to the channel and stuff, and how much energy you want to put into the skits. That's like another thing too. It's like, if you're starting out, figure out a content schedule that you can commit to and not burn yourself out, because like unfortunately too many people think that you have to post like every day or every week in order to be successful, and that's only if you're talking about the news.
Yes. And so, if you do try to put out a news segment, even then you don't have to do every day. Like if there's nothing new to talk about, you don't have to put out a news video. I've learned that myself. So
Yeah, I mean, like that's ultimately like, yeah, like you have to figure out what you are passionate about, and like a lot of people, they're like, oh, I want to talk about Nintendo Switch and stuff. It's like, okay, but a lot of people talk about Nintendo Switch, so I'm not
what are you
saying
bringing
to.
to the table?
Yeah, you have to bring something unique. Like if you're only going to talk about Nintendo Switch and stuff like that, you really have to talk about something that nobody who's talking about the Nintendo Switch is currently talking about.
Like if you had been the first channel to see Joy-Con drift, that would have been huge.
Yeah, and that's that's ultimately the thing is like, you know, I'm probably not the first YouTube channel to talk about retro video game prices, but like I am definitely a channel who brings like a unique perspective to it. Um,
You
you know, there's
absolutely do. I've never seen anybody else, at least in my viewing experience on YouTube, who sits there and forecasts gaming like the entire year essentially, and where they think the price is going to go, whether you should buy that particular game. That's unique.
yeah, and like, and that's kind of the thing is like a lot of channels they used to shy away from talking about prices and stuff because like, you know, like I said, talking about video game prices ages my videos. Like you can tell
It does.
when I
That's
was
true.
talking about it and stuff. So it's like that's one of the reasons why I do like evergreen content like the Mister and um you know, like the limited run video and the Atari VCS and stuff. Like those still get views because people, you know, are constantly searching for that stuff. But it's like nobody really wants to look at you know, the prices of a certain game at a certain amount of time, you know?
But this actually is, I would consider this evergreen content, even though you did exactly what you're saying. Did Metroid Dread raise the price? That's something that historically you can look back at and say, okay, when another Metroid game comes out, will we see spikes in prices in the future by looking at when Metroid Dread came out?
Yeah, I mean, those kind of like they have a little bit of shelf life. Same thing with like the back ones, like the limit how limited run price trends over time, like I did a couple of years ago. That one still holds up because I was like, well, for the most part, like if you want a game, you better buy it when it's released
Yes, that's a
because
fact.
it's never going to go down. Like, I mean, maybe it will, but like it almost always goes up. You know, like I put all my limited run games in a spreadsheet and like I doubled the value of like what I spent on it, even though a handful of games like lost value. But you know,
I got a fly in my room. I'm sorry. I keep twitching. It's like keeps. Sorry.
yeah, yeah, it's okay. But yeah, like I mean, ultimately, like for me specifically, like I mean, evergreen content specifically is something that you really should be focusing on. Um, you know like how long is your video going to be um constantly being recommended and everything like that. So it's, you know, watch time matters to YouTube a lot. And like also, you know, there's other things to do, but like you really should just be taking yourself to a point where like you can actually criticize yourself. Um, because if you can't criticize yourself, if you think that, you know, it's the viewers who aren't watching your videos, like you're not going to go anywhere.
If you wouldn't be willing to sit and watch your own video start to finish, why would anybody else?
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the thing too. Is like I every so often somebody will comment on a video from like 5 years ago and they'll make like some weird comment and I'm like, I don't even remember what I said. Like and I was like, I don't want to watch my own video again because like it's brutal to go back to. But you know, those are important. Like I'll always keep those videos up because it definitely shows where I've come from specifically on those videos and stuff like it and how much I've learned about YouTube in general and like how to present myself.
Okay, so I have one last question because we're coming closer to that 2 hour mark. It's actually kind of a two-parter. One, is there anything else that you would like to talk about that we have not already discussed? And then second part, is there anything you'd like to ask me about anything really at all?
Um geez, like I think we've pretty much like covered most of the stuff. Like I guess like and you know, I'll ask you a question and stuff like if what kind of who's a YouTuber that you want to interview in the future? Like if you could reach out to anybody and they couldn't say no, who would it be?
Anybody, and they couldn't say no.
Yeah, like I
Um,
mean, they're like, "Oh my god, it's the CHRILLCAST. I can't believe that they reached out to me." Like, or you know, like, or if somebody like reached out to you and stuff and was like, "I want to be on this podcast," like, who would it be?
it's funny that you asked that because over the course of the 3 years we've been doing YouTube, we've interviewed so many channels that I never thought would say yes to us. And it's been quite surprising when you like reach out, and like, for example, like Wow Such Gaming, he's got like, 700,000 plus subscribers, and he just said, yeah, man, I'll jump on there. It's like, whoa, why would you want to do that? But okay, we'll happily have you on. You're pretty awesome. But a few that have never either responded or haven't really exchanged DMs with us, like for example, like the Act Man, I would love to have talked to him. Or like Spawnwave, he's actually famously never responded to us once. He tweeted back to us one time. I made a really stupid joke, and he actually made a really stupid joke response to it. So I was kind of surprised that happened. But like, I'd love to interview him because we do almost a very similar thing to what he does, and I'd love to know like how he makes it work. That'd be kind of cool.
Does he ever give interviews?
He has twice. One of them was like an informal one on his channel, and he also did one with RGT 85. He did one with him directly. I do think that there was something with him in Review Tech USA, but I don't know if that ever actually came out.
Yeah, I mean, it's ultimately like, speaking from experience, I usually don't do podcasts, mainly because of the time. Like, I mean, you and I, we talk back forth like what, 2 or 3 weeks before we were able to sit down and talk. So like, that's something that like, yeah, we started talking in March. So like, that's kind of the thing, is like, ultimately, like, the reason why I typically like turn them down, like, I don't necessarily get asked too much, but like, I usually don't do them because like, if I can't make a conflict or something like that, like, it's not necessarily because this is the truth, but some people might take it as like, I'm looking at your channel statistics and seeing if it's worth my time, and I don't want to be that person who thinks that I'm too good for any channel that wants to talk to me. It's just a matter of like, I just don't have time to commit. There's been a handful of times where somebody's like, oh, can you be on a podcast and stuff like that? And I was like, okay, well, like, what time is it? And they're like, it's on Friday night or a Saturday night. And I was like, I reserve that time for me and my family and stuff. Like, I don't like to sit around watching YouTube or anything like that. Like, if I have the time, like, if I ever, have a free Friday night, which is very, very rare, and it comes up like once in a blue moon, sure. But like, some people, they wanted me to be like a regular guest or something like that. They wanted to start a podcast with me. I was like, I don't have time to dedicate to it. So, I mean, that could be him specifically because of that.
Well, yeah, I
I
know
don't.
he's got a wife and kids, like, and he already does so much on YouTube, like that. I'm just saying, like, he's one of the few that never responded to us. Even like, he never even said no.
Yeah, I
And I
mean,
know that
like,
he gets like a filtered Twitter. Like, these are things that I've learned. Like, if you're a small creator creating a podcast, just here's a tip for anybody who's watching at this point. But if you're a small creator with a small podcast and you don't have very many Twitter followers, generally speaking, Twitter will not even let your DM get to somebody, even if they have open DMs. Like, we have somewhere around 400 to 500 followers. It's not that many on Twitter. It's more than what I expected, but it's not that many. Our Twitter DMs get filtered out on many creators that we message. A lot of them. Like, we had to message a few publicly on things, say, hey, send us a DM if you want to be on this podcast. And then they did. And then they could see our DMs. But before that, no idea.
yeah, so I'll give you a little insight on that. I only have 2,000 followers, so I'm just like, not really too big. But when you look at your messages and stuff, I have open DMs also, and
Yeah,
I have
ours are
message
open.
requests on here and stuff, and like, it kind of like puts it into this little box up at the top, and it doesn't say like if you got a new DM or not. So
You
like,
have to
if
click on that folder, right?
you actively have to like go into your messages box and then look at it. And most of the time, like, I never honestly check too often, because it's like, most of the time it's just spam. Like, it's literally just like literally, I looked into it just now, and like, I got like a 1 hour ago, it's like, congratulations, you won Bitcoin and stuff. And it's like, okay. Or some people are like, they um they, when I did the limited run thing, like a whole bunch of people like tried to, they were sharing like all these like screenshots of like their interactions with limited run and stuff, and some of them weren't necessarily very um like, I don't think that they were acting in like the most best faith and stuff, and
Yeah,
like I try really hard not to like
promote that.
entertain that
Yeah,
specifically, but like, yeah, I mean, like that's kind of the problem is like when you go and like somebody's verified too, like they even have like a filter that only shows verified notifications. So if you're a verified account, like you get more notice from verified specifically. Because like I have a friend um, that's a mutual follow. His name is Daniel Kibblesmith, and he's a comic book writer. And like we used to be friends and stuff like that. We like, hang out at his house parties and stuff like that. So we're mutual follows on Twitter, but like his tweets, like he has over 100,000 followers. So it's like, even if I'm like responding and stuff like that, like he's probably not going to see it in the endless sea of just like constant barrage of notifications that he has. So I wouldn't take it too far to heart, but like I really do think that like Spawn Wave specifically, like he, not to put words in his mouth, but he seems like a pretty um business type guy where he like
oh, he
sets
definitely
aside
is.
time specifically for YouTube and Twitter, and then
That's it.
he's able to set his phone off, and like that's something that I really envy. I wish I could just like set my phone down and disconnect for a little bit, because that's what he sounds like he does. Like he, he works out all the time. Like I need to get back working out, but like, he's definitely a guy who like has a regimen. Um, you
Oh
know,
yes, he does. He definitely does. So I that's like one thing where I that's why I want to interview him, because like him and I could relate probably on a decent amount of levels, but being that I have a similar like regiment, family, all that other stuff. I got 4 kids, I got 4 kids and a wife and everything else, and I still manage to do like YouTube like he does. Like I'll put out a video a couple times a week, sometimes the whole week. This depends on the week and the news and everything else. But I would love to sit down with him, interview him, find out what makes him tick and all that. But
I would see
I've
if he
seen
has a
some of his,
contact email or something like that too.
and then
Um,
the other couple of people I'd want to interview, like I would love to sit down with Review Tech USA, just 'cause I think it'd be a really interesting and strange interview. and
I asked him to debate the Amico, and he said no, because like he was like, "Is anybody like who's a fan of the Amico wants to debate me?" I was like, "I'll debate you, buddy. Like I want to, like, I think I could do it." But he never responded. But I think he wanted like a fanboy.
there's a couple other creators that I'm not going to necessarily mention, but like we DM a lot, like we're friends, and they won't come on the podcast just because they don't do podcasts in general.
Yeah, it's a policy. Like I said before, like I try to entertain requests. Like some people, they ask me, and I'm like, okay, like set a time. Like I really, I need to plan in advance and stuff,
Yep.
and it just kind of falls off the cliff. They either decide that it's not worth their time, or they just don't want to do it, or you know their channel is just so not managed correctly and stuff that they can't actually fit it. Because like I actually have like another podcast that I'm gonna do next week and stuff, so when it rains it pours. But I'm like, I had to like notify him too, because he's like, well, like if I have a guest this week or something like that, I'll let you know. And I finally like sent him a message. I was like, listen, like I only have time next week, like definitely next week, and then the week after that I'm like relocating to Colorado for 6 weeks.
Oh yeah.
So like I don't know what the internet situation is going to be like. I don't know, I'm definitely not going to have like my background or anything like that, or my lights or anything like that. Like I'm only going to have my camera, my microphone, and my audio setup. So like we need to like do this, or we have to wait until October. He's like, oh well, yeah, sure. Like so.
All right. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to discuss?
No, I don't. Like, this was a lot of fun. So like it was, something that, I don't get to do very often, but it is really nice talking to you.
Yeah, man, I've enjoyed your content for as long as I've at least known your content has existed, which I think about 2 years now. And I've always found that a lot of the things you do are things that I do. And I was like, wow, I would love to sit down and chat with you. But it took me a very long time to even find a way to contact you. Reddit ended up being the most successful one. So
Yeah, I mean, like that's kind of surprising too. Like, but yeah, like, cause yeah, now I finally like came out of the woodwork and like linked the channel to my Reddit account,
I
which
just
used to
saw
be a
your
whole no,
logo.
but
I just saw your logo. That was
yeah,
it. It's
yeah,
like,
I
that's
did the
got to be us.
logo and stuff. Yeah, like, cause otherwise, yeah, you wouldn't know that it's me. But you know, for the most part, I only talk about gaming and stuff like that on Reddit anymore. Like,
Right, right.
but when you get in the front page of Reddit, though, you get invited to the Eternity Club. So that's I'm part of the Eternity Club. It's like just a small group of front page posters and stuff like that who get to the. I think it's you get in the Eternity Club if you're on the front page, and then you get into like, or no, it's the number one post on Reddit. I think. Let me
Oh,
look
so if
here.
you have had a number one post on Reddit, you get into the Eternity Club?
Yeah, front page posters only. Yeah, this one is if you reach the top 25 on or all. There's another one. It's called the Elite Club, and that's what you get number one on our all. But that one isn't as active as the Eternity Club.
I had a pretty prominent Reddit account at one point in time that I got like all of my Reddit accounts removed at once because I had a couple. I know you're not supposed to do that, but I did. And I got into it with a r/Star Wars mod over something stupid,
Mm.
and they reached out to like the like main Reddit mods, and then they eventually said, "All right, you can have another account, but you can't have your account back."
Yeah, I've had this account for 8 years and stuff, and like I would ship posts and stuff, and like my number one post was, even if you Google right now like new Overwatch character announced, like my image is still in the front, the first Google search images. It's Sexy Flanders,
That's funny.
because of the Tracer Overwatch post thing. It was crazy. It got shared by Boogie and like all these
Oh my
other things and
gosh,
stuff like that too. It was pretty crazy.
that's
But
incredible. All right. Well, yeah, like I said, it's been a great time talking to you, and I would love to sit down and do this again in like a year or two, see where you're at and how everything's been going.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had a really good time.
All right. Well, we're going to end this in the only way I know how. So, thank you. And make sure if you guys watch this and enjoyed this interview and you are not already subscribed to Super Nicktendo, that you go and do that. It's youtube.com/Super Nicktendo. If you can't spell it, then, I don't know how to help you, but
You should be
seems
able to
pretty
find it
simple.
by Google, and like nowadays, like you can actually search Nicktendo and it'll actually Super Nicktendo and actually come up.
Are
So
you the first one? Let's find out.
I if you type in Super Nicktendo, I should be, but there's other Nicktendo channels. There's like one, yeah, this
Oh,
one
yeah.
big one. He just does like all Nickelodeon cartoons.
Hmm.
But yeah, if you type in
Interesting.
Super Nicktendo, I should be the first person that pops
There
up.
you go.
Yeah, I kind of own the SEO on that one. But the guy won't
Fantastic.
sell me supernicktendo.com though.
So, do you have your own website?
Yeah, but I don't really use it anymore. Like it
Oh,
was
okay.
like I think it's like supernicktendo.net or something like that. I can't remember specifically what I did, but like I tried to do like blogging and stuff and it didn't quite pan out. Again, like that's one of those things where I was like, I need the branding and I need to do all this stuff. I need to do TikToks, and I was like, ooh, no.
Well, on Twitter, it's at S or like Snicktendo, Super Nicktendo, S Nicktendo.
Yeah, it's Nicktendo because I didn't
It's
want to
too
use
long.
underscores, I think.
Isn't it too long, or
It
is it not quite?
I can't
I think
remember
you get like
exactly.
15 characters, I think max.
Yeah, I can't specifically remember like why it didn't go, but yeah, like somebody has like Super Nicktendo
I was
on
lucky
here.
that our name was unique enough that nobody else had it, so we worked out. But
Ultimately, like I specifically, yeah, and this person hasn't been active since 2009. Um that's one thing that I kind of regret. I kind of regret my channel name. But
no,
it
it's got a
is what
good
it is.
flow. I think it's like there's so many plays on Nintendo. Like I know there's like a Nintendan, I think is one.
You got Nintendo, you got
Nintendo.
yeah, you got there's
There
other
had to be a Nintendo, so I'm glad that it's you.
yeah, like there's a handful of Nintendo, like super, like there's like Studio Nintendo, and like there's Nintendo 64, I think. But all those channels are kind of like they're not as active as I am, so like I definitely have that SEO. But like every so often, like some like the bigger videos, everyone's like, that's the cringiest name I've ever seen. I was like, okay, like I guess, like, is that the reason why you're not going to subscribe to me? Like, okay, I don't need you, so whatever.
Long story short, subscribe, follow, do whatever you like to do on social media as long as you're, enjoying the content.
Yeah, absolutely.
As always, I am Chris with the CHRILLCAST and our guest,
Nick, Super Nicktendo.
We will all see you later. Bye, guys.